So thank you very much. Good morning to everybody, and thank you very much for joining us today in this session on Islamic finance potential in Egypt, corporate banking and capital market. It's the third session we are doing in a series of webinars we have been organizing in the framework of the Saudi-Spanish in the framework of the Observatory of Islamic Finance in Spain that we have created between the Saudi Spanish Center for Islamic Economics and Finance and Casa Árabe. I'm coordinating education and economics at Casa Árabe, and I have the pleasure to open the session today. I will, before giving the floor to Professor Fatiha Talahid, who will be chairing this session on Islamic finance potential in Egypt, I will like to thank all the collaborators and participants. As I mentioned, it's a session we're organizing within the framework of the Observatory of Islamic Finance in Spain, and we can also with the collaboration of the Durham Center for Islamic Economics and Finance. So I would like especially to thank Professor Fatiha Talahid and Mrs. Nurham El Sarkawi for their help in organizing this session and contacting different speakers and reaching really the interesting issues to tackle today, to know how the Islamic finance in Egypt is going on in the particular sector we just mentioned. And I would like also to thank Professor Mehmet Asutay, who will be joining us later. He has just a problem for connected. And also the different, of course, the different participants that have agreed to share their knowledge and be with us today to talk about this issue. And I would like also to thank all of you for coming here today, and especially some people joining from different parts of the world, including the Consul of Egypt in Spain, Mr. Ahmed Lassad. Thanks to all of you for coming today and for connected. So with that, I will pass the floor to Professor Fatiha Talahid whenever you want to start this section, and we will be looking forward the intervention of the speakers and your comment and participation. We will do 2 turns of questions, and then you will have the chance also to participate in the debate. So thanks a lot for being here, and Fatiha, whenever you want. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Olivia, and thank you and welcome to all the participants to this session on Islamic finance in Egypt. I first present rapidly the topic of the session and then present the participants. I've not enough time to talk about the financial sector in Egypt, but it's important to say that Egypt is one of the most important financial sector in the region. It comes before Morocco and other countries. And this sector had experiences reforms and is now in sort of boom, is developing very, very fast because of the development also of the Egyptian economy. And Sharia-compliant banking makes up about 5.4% of the Egyptian banking market, with a growth rate of 12.2% compared to March 2020. Among 38 banks operating in Egypt, a total of 14 banks are providing Islamic banking products, including 3 full-fledged Islamic banks. Faisal Islamic Bank of Egypt, which represents 31% of Islamic banking industry, Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank, 21%, and Baraka Bank, 19%. In addition to Banque Misr Islamic banking segment, 22%, and another 10 Islamic branches of conventional banks that have Islamic windows. There are 248 Islamic banking branches serving about 3 million customers in Egypt. The Egyptian government is making new progress to develop its financial sector and increase financial inclusion in the country. 56.2% out of adult population. Beyond the banking system, Sukuk law was introduced by the Financial Regulatory Authority, which is the central bank, in the amended capital market law, including a reorganization of the issuance and trading of all Sukuk forms. The country offers ample investment opportunities that can attract the Islamic placement opportunities for financing development, whether infrastructure projects, corporate and SMEs finance, or consumers levels. The current growing Egyptian economic development need and population's values offer promising prospects for Islamic finance. In this context, this roundtable will explore the potential of Islamic finance to contribute to financial development in Egypt, in SME and corporate finance, and in the capital market. Diverse industry experts and players, financial experts and bankers will share their views and opinions on Islamic banking and finance industry development in Egypt. The participants are, I will welcome to the participants and thank you for their presence. Rania Abdel Fattah, which she is lecturer at the British University in Egypt. Mostafa El Eskandrani, a financial service professional in development financial institutions. Nurhan El Sharqawi is an Islamic corporate practitioner. Mohammed Shusha, Islamic finance expert in private and public banks. Abdallah Knawi, treasury and funding expert in investment banking. And for direction and the discussion, Mehmet Asutai from Durham University in UK. So I will give the floor first to Rania Abdel Fattah. I don't know if I need to present Rania. She's a current lecturer at the British University in Egypt. Previously, she worked in the German University in Cairo from 2005 till 2014, where she taught various finance courses on bank management and credit analysis, portfolio management, managerial finance, corporate finance, advanced corporate finance, and derivatives. Okay. She holds a PhD in finance by the German University in Cairo, an MBA in financial management by the Arab Academy for Banking and Financial Sciences, and a BA degree from the Faculty of Commerce and at Ain Shams University in Egypt. So the first question to Rania Abdel Fattah. Although Egypt was a pioneer in Islamic banking and finance, this initial impetus has not been enough to launch the development of this sector, which represent only about 5.4% of the Egyptian banking market. So it is an historical perspective. Can you give us a short history of the Sharia-compliant banking in Egypt and explain the reasons for its slow growth? Thank you.
Thank you, Fazia, for the introduction, and thank you for the invitation for this webinar. I'd like also to thank the attendees and all the participants. While getting back to your question, Egypt has been, this is actually very well known that Egypt has been the pioneer in Islamic banking. It started in the 1960s. However, unfortunately, this has not gained ground the past decades, which I see it as a little bit different the past few years, and I will explain this as we move historically. So until 2011 and 2013, we haven't seen that Islamic banking has developed or has grown more than the previous years. We only had 1 or 2 Islamic banks and very few conventional banks providing some Islamic banking products. Until 2013, by the year 2013, the number of Islamic banks actually grew to 3 Islamic banks in Egypt. We had 11 conventional banks providing Islamic financial products and Islamic branches all over Egypt. There has been a lot of introductions and announcements about the Sukuk law, for example, to introduce some Islamic financial tools other than only being focused only on banking. However, we have not seen this to take place except in 2020. And we have not seen any issues of Sukuk except in the year 2020. One also progress, it's very minimal. However, the number of banks that are providing Islamic products has increased from 11 to 14. And this is only through the past few years as well. So I would say that the last 5 years, the growth of the industry is a little bit different. This could be because of the demand for Islamic financial products. One thing we have seen, and currently we have 5 issues of Sukuk already in the market. However, it is a little bit, we have the regulations already there for the Sukuk as a financial tool, as a source of raising capital. And it's by the FRA, and it's actually registered and listed in the Egyptian Stock Exchange. However, the Sukuk placements or the Sukuk that has been announced, it was announced in a private placement. I know that we'll be talking about Sukuk a little bit more during the session. So I leave it here regarding the Sukuk, but I just would like to pinpoint that during the last 5 years, the growth has been a little bit different. But the many announcements about the regulations of the Sukuk, for example, it has come alive finally in 2020, seeing the first issue and now reaching to 5 different issues of Sukuk. And still there are announcements on more Sukuk issues to be there in the market. I'd also like to point out 2 important things. The credit rating for the Sukuk is actually very good. It ranges from A+ to BBB-, which is a very good rating. Another thing, the underwriter for all the Sukuk issues, it's Banque Misr. And Banque Misr is actually a public bank. So it's supported by the government. It's supported by the regulatory authorities. And this, of course, means that we can see in the future that more financial products, Islamic financial products that can be introduced in the market, given some other factors, of course. Fatiha, you are muted.
Yeah. Thank you very much for this answer to the first round of questions. So now I will ask a question to Mustafa El-Askandrani. Welcome, Mustafa. Mustafa is a financial service professional with nearly 11 years of experience who worked with several international financial organizations such as Ernst & Young and the Islamic Development Bank Group. He also served as a director in several companies across the Middle East. His focus is on impact investment, working with development financial institutions, achieving SDGs and ESG objectives. So he will explain us what they are across the organization of the Islamic cooperation. He holds a Master of Science in Finance and Investment from Durham University and the Bachelor of Accounting from the American University in Cairo. He also passed all 4 exams of the CPA and is currently a CFA Level 3 candidate. At present, he is lead principal at the Islamic Corporation for the Development of the Private Sector, institution member of the Islamic Development Bank Group. Now, the question for you is, can you tell us about the contribution of Islamic finance in Egypt to the achievement of the SDG and ESG goals? How is the collaboration with development finance institutions?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Dr. Fatiha, for the introduction. Thank you all for attending. And of course, my regards to all the panelists in this session. So thank you, Dr. Fatiha, for the question. And yes, DFIs have a very active role in achieving what is called the Sustainable Development Goals that was launched by the UN. There are 17 goals, and among of which there are goals that directly address what is called financial inclusion, access to finance, reducing inequality, reducing poverty, and so on. So we believe, or I believe, that developmental financial institutions as an entity have a very important role in contributing to what is called Islamic finance. Because maybe more than 56 countries in the world, and we're talking about 1.5 billion people, prefer to adopt Sharia-compliant financing or access Sharia-compliant financing. And how DFIs are doing this? DFIs are instruments that exist in markets that commercial banks or commercial entities cannot properly function. And we have a role to seed finance, establish and create entities that can cater for the untapped demand in Muslim countries or in Sharia-compliant markets. One of the contributions that one of the Sharia-compliant DFIs are doing for over a decade now is to establish financial institutions, whether banks or consumer finance or non-banking financial institutions that offer ijara facilities that can cater for acquiring houses, acquiring vehicles, household products in a Sharia-compliant way. So DFIs have done that. They are doing this in the markets that can accept and adopt these products. And to also focus on something very specific, I love to say that public markets educate private markets. So if we establish, or DFIs collaborate with commercial banks and other commercial entities in these markets and create the Sukuk market specifically, we can establish what is called a curve, better pricing. There is supply and demand, so we can easily price these products, we can easily issue these products, and we create a Sharia-compliant market. So I believe that Sukuks are very important in the fixed income universe, and also from an equity perspective, equity investors are critical to any market. Creating Sharia-compliant funds that directly invest in companies, building these companies, and issuing them into a stock exchange or into a public market. So this is how we create a healthy functional market that cater for a specific demand of Muslim countries or a Sharia-compliant market. For example, we have green Sukuks that are becoming extremely popular, and DFIs are hunting for them, and they are accepting to pay more to place their funds into what is called green Sukuk or green bonds in the markets. There is a very interesting structure that happened in Malaysia that Egypt can adopt, and as Dr. Rania has highlighted earlier, the regulation is there. Alhamdulillah, the lawmaker issued a law that supports a Sukuk market to exist. And by this law, the market participants headed or led by DFIs, such as the Islamic Development Bank, as Dr. Fatiha mentioned, can establish this market, and the commercial banks can follow through, inshallah. So this is how I look at the contribution of Islamic finance by DFIs in the market, addressing SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, such as SDG 10 to reduce inequalities, and also SDG 17, which is establishing and strengthening partnerships. So I hope I answered this question, Dr. Fatiha and the rest of the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mustafa, for this answer, this alignment. I ask now a question to Nurhan al-Sharqawi. Welcome, Nurhan. Nurhan is experiences in the corporate credit analysis, economic research, and econometrics modeling. Her focus of expertise is currently on Islamic corporate banking by offering facilities using different Islamic finance contracts. She holds a MA in International Economic from Paris Dauphine University and a MA in Banking and Finance from Limoges in France, Limoges University. Currently, she is a deputy manager at the First Abu Dhabi Bank. So, Nurhan, the question is, what is the contribution of Islamic finance to financial development in Egypt in the financing of SMEs and enterprises and in the capital market? The floor.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fatiha, and thank you for Olivia and for all the attendees. Actually, for the Islamic finance, it has still a small portion comparing to the conventional banking in Egypt, which will provide a good opportunity to grow more, inshallah. For SMEs, for example, I have a good news that just in 2 days, by end of August, there is a new license for the first microfinance institution that will be Sharia compliant. So it is reflect firstly the demand from that there is a high demand from microfinance and the SMEs to get micro funding, which is more easier and flexible than banks for the SMEs funding the facilities, the regular facilities. And for the other hand, the awareness from the regulator by this untapped market, and for the sake also for the financial inclusion. This is for the SMEs. For also the corporate clients, I want to highlight that the different funding contracts like Mudaraba, Musharaka, and Murabaha and Ijara, actually they provide something, it's like customized facilities to meet their needs. Of course, it is provide either for short or long-term needs. So it met their needs very specific. So of course there is a huge contribution in this field. And finally, for the capital market, like Dr. Rania has highlighted for the Sukuk transactions, for the last during 2 years, the capital, the demand, this successful closing of this Sukuk transaction reflects the high needs of the investors in the local market to invest in this Sharia-compliant tool, especially from the financial institution to invest their liquidity from depositors. The challenge I want to highlight that now the challenge, it's not from the demand, it's actually from the supply, because they need awareness by professionals in the financial institution of these products, because there is a lack of standard documents and also in terms of documentation and in terms of interpretation of these products to be interpreted for the end users, the clients. This is the challenge now. And this is that we need to overcome this challenge in order to expand more in the Islamic finance market to contribute more versus the conventional market. Thank you.
And it's important you noticed about the microfinance, because microfinance is a means for inclusion of people working in the informal sector and especially women, which are not included in they have no banking account, and so Islamic microfinance is very, very important. Thank you very much. Now, Mohammed Shusha, welcome. Mohammed Shusha is a banking and finance professional bringing more than 14 years of progressive experience in corporate and Islamic banking, with leading banks, along with a track record in business development, portfolio management, and value creation with clients. His banking expertise ranges from corporate finance and syndicated loans to Sukuk, Islamic product development, liquidity management, and structured finance across various client profiles, ranging from large corporations, SMEs, and governmental related entities. He holds MBA in financial management and certified Islamic professional accountant. Currently, he is the group head of Islamic corporate at First Abu Dhabi Bank. Welcome, Mohammed. I wanted to ask you about, can you tell us about the Sukuk market in Egypt? Has it received a boost since the Sukuk law introduced by the Financial Regulatory Authority in the amended capital market law, including reorganization of the issuance and trading of all forms of Sukuk?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Fatiha. Thank you, Olivia. Thank you, all attendees. Welcome to the real life, not academic side, representing in what will I say, since the issuance of the Sukuk law in Egypt, which is called a revolution in Egypt, because the Islamic banking previously doesn't contribute in the real life related the Islamic related the banking services overall. But after this issuance of the law, the corporate clients have a good appetite to issue the corporate Sukuk for the private sector as a supply or a heavy demand, especially in the local current market. Yeah. The market expanded as a Sukuk volume reached 10.3 billion since 2020 by two main entity contribution, AFG and Sarwa Capital, who has alliances to issue the Sukuk related to the private sector. The demand for Sukuk funding is driven mainly from the real estate developer, because in Egypt, since the 5 years, the governmental and in Egypt has a precise regarding the real estate in Egypt. So the real estate developer, given the fund procedures of Sukuk, is more flexible and easier than banking operation, because previously has been done through a syndicate loans, not Sharia compliant, or if it's a Sharia compliant, which has been take a lot of time and a lot of documentation, a lot of securities and guarantees. Once you get to disperse the facility, it will take a lot of time in terms of independent engineer revision for every withdrawal. So the Sukuk, it's a unique product to give the corporate clients chance to take the needed fund at time or at first. Then they disperse it through a facilitated process than the corporate loan or bilateral facility or syndication facility offered by the commercial bank. The Islamic finance products nature is asset-based, because it's the Sukuk definition need to a real asset to affect in the real economy. This is the perception of the Islamic banking from my perspective. So the asset backed to the a transaction is give the transaction is a good value for the economic and for the participant or Sukuk holder. The Sukuk holder in Egypt now, as I highlighted, has amounted of 10.3 billion, and we are cooking two transactions in the our vaccine to we will launch soonest inshallah. So the Sukuk market in Egypt is growing fast, and the sovereign Sukuk will come to the board recently. And as Mustafa and Dr. Rani and Nurhan said about the Sukuk development in Egypt, and the green Sukuk now as a topic is a very a good structure, which is will reflect in developed or numbers for the corporate and the governmental entities, inshallah, soon. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mohammed, for this answer. So now, Abdallah Kinawi, I think he is not present, so he sent a video. Abdallah Kinawi is a treasury and funding expert in investment banking. He is currently group funding director of Contact Financial Holding, which was before Sarwa Capital. So the question we asked him is, you have been participating in some of the first corporate Sukuk since 2019. Could you tell us a bit more about their results and about what kind of industries and projects they have been investing on? Has some financing gone into manufacturing or industrial projects with a direct impact on employment and growth creation?
Hello, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank our friends in Saudi Spanish Center for Economics and Islamic Finance. And my thanks extended to our friends in Casa Arab too for such a good opportunity. Looking forward to reap the benefits from this discussion soon, inshallah, in form of expanding the Islamic finance space here in Egypt. Regarding your question, actually I honored to participate in 3 issuances out of 5, which considered as most of the issuances, not some of them. I participated in 3 out of 5 existing, amounting 8.25 billion out of, let's say, 11 billion total Sukuk size here. All issuances in Egypt issued in 3 forms: Ijara, Mudarba, Musharka. All issuances went to finance 3 sectors: non-banking financial services, real estate development, and educational services. My participation mainly went for 2 sectors: non-banking financial services and real estate. But the impacts or the benefit from such issuances couldn't be seen directly. It could be seen from the bigger picture. For example, when you talk about the real estate development or the real estate sector, we are talking about many other industries in the shades, among them construction, for example, which considered as labor-intensive industry. So we have an impact on the level of employment. We have an impact on the manufacture. I believe that we have an impact on the economic growth. I can see that any project finance has its impacts on all these factors. In sum, all these benefits could be delivered from any other conventional debts. But the flavor here that we delivered such benefits from mega finance in compliance with Sharia rules and Islamic principles. From this point, and the benefit on the other way around, that we already included the Islamic banks in the investment. We included any other investor compliant with Sharia, which positively affects the money supply.
So we finished the first round of questions, which were introductory questions. Now we are going to ask more precise and question and give the opportunity to the participants to develop their ideas and develop and present their knowledge about the financial Islamic finance in Egypt. So the question to Rania Abdel Fattah, yet the current growing Egyptian economic development needs and population's values offer promising prospects for Islamic finance. Are things changing recently with the growth rate of 13.5% as of June 2021? And maybe you can, if you want, link your answer to the situation now with the world crisis and the war in Ukraine, and what are the opportunities now in the MENA countries in this context, if you want to make the link. Thank you.
As all the participants, Mustafa, Nurhan, and Mohammed has mentioned, and it has seen that all of us have been talking about Sukuk extensively, and I think it's going to continue like this till the end of the webinar. It's because it's really gaining ground. And one reason for this, if I'd link to the global situation now, is that there is a huge need to raise capital. And when the need has increased for raising capital, we have seen the need for new financial tools. And hence, we have seen that in Egypt, what is gaining ground is the coming from the demand for raising capital, is that we need new financial tools other than stocks and bonds and taking loans from banks. So Sukuk came out as a very good opportunity with the different types of Sukuk and the different structures that it provides. So it actually, it has seen as not only a Sharia-compliant tool, but it's also a good financial tool to raise capital. So here, I see it as a cycle. It started by demand in Egypt. If I come back to focus on Egypt, it started as a demand in the Egyptian market because we are undergoing great projects for development. So there is a huge need for financing, especially as they said in the mortgage or in the real estate and in the construction and so on. So the need for Sukuk has came, the regulator responded, and we have seen the rules and the regulations have come in place, and the supply is there. We still have the challenge that Nurhan has mentioned, and the point that Mustafa has discussed, which is the balance between the supply and demand to enable better pricing for the instruments itself. So if I directly answer your question, I actually see that there is much more demand in the market. There is much more demand for more financial tools, whether in the risk management even part, if we talk about, if we look at financial tools, Islamic financial tools, to manage some risks. Then we have the takaful, which is already also there in Egypt. But all the focus now is more into the sukuk part, because this is what is more needed now. However, later on, I would see that we would come to the point that these corporations would like to manage the risks, and then takaful maybe would be another good option. Islamic financial tools are very broad. We have so many options. And if we start to look at it as an attractive financing, investing, and tools, not only that it's Sharia compliant, then I think we will have more demand in Egypt. And the regulator always responds to the demand, and then the supplier works and the dynamics go around. So this is how I see it. Yes, I see that it has a good opportunity, especially the coming period, given the growth during the last 5 years.
Thank you, Rania.
Thank you, Fatih.
Mustafa, can you tell us about the activity of Islamic banks in Egypt in terms of impact investments, aiming at objectives in environmental protection, social governance, human development? Are they exclusively public investments, or do they also aim to attract private investors?
Okay, very good. Thank you, Dr. Fatiha. So first of all, my understanding or my perception of impact investment is that it's a multi-dimensional investment process, not like a conventional investment, which only focuses on the traditional or conventional economic criteria like IRR, MPV, money invested capital. When we talk about impact investment, we add another dimension, which is how the investment or how the money that is channeling through will achieve certain environmental, social, and governance objectives. Based on that and my experience with DFIs, DFIs are responsive to the markets. And for example, Egypt has a lot of demand that demands or wants Sharia-compliant structures. And I've met with even Western conventional DFIs that are willing and eager to engage with the market to achieve the ESG goals and the development goals, with offering a tailored product that matches with Sharia requirements of the market, Egypt or elsewhere in that case. So how is it growing? We have seen retail deposits going to the Islamic windows or the Islamic banks. And this is how these balance sheets grow in the end. And we've seen how ESG deposits in the West or in bulge brackets elsewhere have created ESG products to service and to deploy the capital that they started receiving from individuals that specifically demand ethical and socially responsible investing. So it's the same case with Sharia compliant investing. We see individuals and institutions handing out or giving banks in Egypt either lines of finance or retail deposits, demanding that these funds to be deployed in a Sharia compliant way. So this is how it's being witnessed by myself in the Egyptian market. DFIs basically give lines of credit, which is lines of finance, to the Sharia compliant banks. There is one structure that can be a wakala structure. A wakala structure is basically a principal agent structure. The principal is the DFI. The agent is the bank in Egypt, for example, and they define a set of projects. These set of projects are mapped to certain ESG and SDG objectives, and they're sized in terms of amount and tenor. And then when the money goes to this agent in the local market, the local agent deploys the capital as per the agreement or as per the documentation in place. This is a very effective tool. We've seen it successful in other markets in Sub-Saharan Africa and Asia, which have achieved the SDGs that are mapped. For example, let's talk about female gender equality, SDG 5 specifically. We've seen a lot of money or funds that are directed to certain products that service female empowerment and other businesses that create jobs for females in a Sharia compliant framework, as Dr. Fatih has mentioned a few questions ago. So that's my view on how impact investment works, and it's been working in Egypt similarly to other markets. And DFIs, even the ones with no Sharia compliance product, they are trying to tailor it as much as possible to service the targeted markets in OIC countries or in Muslim countries in general. So yeah, that's how I look at it and how ESG is achieved in Egypt and elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Mustafa. Nurhan, what are the sectors in which Islamic finance is investing today in Egypt?
Of course, from corporate perspective, currently, because the current situation in Egypt and there is a shortage in the foreign currency, so we are in parallel with the normal financial market. We invest also in mainly in the sectors that contribute in the economic development and procure foreign currency. And of course, because the Islamic finance nature is asset-based sectors that should be invested in, so the manufacturing, of course, is one of the top sectors that we are invested in the Islamic finance. More specifically, of course, the net exporter, such as in the petrochemicals and the agro-freezing, of course, because we are, by the end of the day, we are agriculture country, so we can support also the agriculture processing and the agro-freezing that could export abroad and procure foreign currency. In addition, also to the real estate, because recently we are in the new capital now, so there is a lot of real estate developers that needs to raise funds in order to finalize the new capital. So and develop, of course, the urbanization and the new urbanization of Egypt. So there are the manufacturing and the real estate are the top of the list regarding the investment in the Islamic finance.
Thank you, Nurhan. And Mohammed Zushan, what is the profile of Islamic finance clients in Egypt today? Have you seen any changes in terms of age, generation, social background, education level? So it's a question by the clients.
Okay. From my perspective, the corporate client, of course, the category itself, it was changed, as it is not now the driver is not only religions but also economic driver. Seeking tax benefits, which is the Sukuk product offer, tax exemption, for example, gives the benefits such the case of the fixed profit rate through a murabha, which is managing the pricing of the goods and services. So the clients now in Egypt not clients will search for the Sharia compliant only, but the benefits offering through a Sharia compliant products, which is which I highlighted previously. Worth to mention that the central bank gave an interest to the develop the quality of Islamic banks by hiring qualified managers for the Islamic banking. There is a changes in the CEOs related to the Islamic banking in Egypt, such as the current change in the management of the Baraka Bank by new highly experts managers. In addition to the recent increase in the number of Islamic branches, either for full-fledged Islamic banks or conventional banks, has a window of Islamic windows. As the case, Banque Misr, it's a governmental bank. We in Egypt know this is Banque Misr and Bank Qahira and Bank Al-Ahli is belong to the central bank. We consider it as a governmental entities. So the Bank Misr now a geographical covering a geographical for many places in Egypt, raising the branches from 13 to 15 branch during the recent 10 years. This is how can I see the category of the clients from a corporate perspective, not the clients who has been searched for the Islamic or Sharia compliant products for just a regional believing, but they changed for they looking for the benefits offering by the Islamic products, such as tax exemption or fixed rate for offering by Murabha products. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we asked a second question to Abdallah Kinawi, and we will see the answer on the video. How do you see the prospects in the coming years for other sectors within the Islamic finance industry, like insurance or mortgages, where the population demand is high?
My point of view in this regard is that the Egyptian market is still not matured enough yet to be in comparison with other markets in let's say Gulf or other markets in Asia. But all I can say is that we are on track. We are taking the learning curve, and we have a very promising market. Especially that Sukuk is applicable for many industries. Sukuk is applicable for agriculture, which is contrary to the other instruments in the debt capital market. I mean securitization bonds, I mean corporate bonds. So we are empowering all players, we are empowering all parties to get into such an instrument. And I think Shusha and I already took a very tough journey in previous transactions, and alhamdulillah the results were good enough, alhamdulillah. When we offer Sukuk, especially we have 10 years maturity, we have 7 years maturity as we speak now, we have 10 years maturity, we have 7 years maturity, we have 5 years maturity. When we offer such a product to these individuals, I think the results will be very good. So hopefully, inshallah, we will work on that and to include the insurance companies through retail products, and this, I think, in compliance with the regulations of the Financial Regulation Authority.
Thank you. So we finished this third round of question, which was on current situation, impact, and prospects. I don't know if Professor Azutai is here, is present?
I think he connected because he was having some problems, but I think he's connected. Let's see.
Because now he's, if he can...
If he can questions,
discuss the whole...
Let's give him a second. Professor Azutai, can you connect, or are you there? I think he was a moment ago, but maybe he was having problems. He has told me that he was having problems with the connection. He has sent me some questions so I can read them on his behalf.
Yeah.
So here you have the comment of Professor Mehmed Azutai from Durham University, and one of the collaborators as well in this session. He's professor of Middle Eastern and Islamic political economy and finance, director of the Master of Islamic Finance program there at Durham, and director of the Durham Center for Islamic Economics and Finance. So he sent me 5 questions. I'm going to, I don't have to read the 5, or at least we can maybe, I can read them and then the participants can answer them, just can comment on that. So his first point is about considering that political economy has been an important determinant on the development of Islamic finance in individual country cases. He's asking, what is the position of the panel on the political will expressed in the country and also of the technocrats and bureaucrats in the country, such as the regulative environment? I think you were mentioning some comments already about the position of the government and the impulse, but maybe you could detail a bit more about the regulation now. His second point is considering the increasing political and economic engagement of Egypt with the Gulf region, with the GCC region, the Gulf Countries Council. Can we envisage an increased relationship between the Gulf Islamic finance industry and Egyptian Islamic finance sector? That is, relationship between the Islamic finance industry in Egypt and that of the Gulf. Then his third question is that considering the economic empowerment needs of larger population in Egypt, speaking about the demand, do you think the current commercial nature of Islamic finance model is an effective model for such an objective? Or should we need to go back to the basics, as in the case of Myth Gammer, the first experience of Islamic banking in the world and that started in Egypt, and so develop an Egyptian model of Islamic finance embedded in the civil society with the objective of empowering the ordinary people beyond capital movements? That's his third question. They are not, none of them are easy questions. And the fourth one is, what if any peculiar condition of potential Egyptian model of Islamic finance could be? What if any peculiar condition of potential Egyptian model of Islamic finance could be? Is kind of any particular potential you see in the Egyptian market. Then the fifth question is about crowdfunding and fintech. So it says crowdfunding and fintech platforms are on increase in Egypt. So what is the interest of Islamic finance sector tapping into crowdfunding and fintech platforms to provide Islamic alternatives? So here you have his question. He was asking me because he tried to connect, but the connection was not working. So yeah, maybe Fatiha, we can make a round of for the participants to answer accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. So you can answer. You can choose to answer one or two questions if you want to answer all the questions. So I begin by Rania. Have you ideas about the questions?
If I captured all the questions, it's basically around the political economy, whether it's supporting or not, right? To sum it up in. And the second question is, the third question was about fintech and crowdfunding, right? And the second question was about what?
The second one still was about the relationship between the Egyptian industry and that of the Gulf countries.
Okay, in all of them, well, the political economy, this is how I see it. I believe in, of course, from the practitioners, we can have more information regarding that. But as I said, I see that the Islamic finance industry is gaining ground by the existence of the demand. So when there is a demand for these financial tools in the market, the regulator responds. However, we have to know that the legislation of the civil law of Egypt, it does not differentiate between conventional finance and Islamic finance. It's by law, by default, that Egyptian civil law in everything is actually Sharia compliant. So there is no, the government does not, the government does not push Sharia compliant products. However, if we see it as tools of financing, different tools of financing, so we will see that the demand is growing, or what is growing in the market, not Islamic banking, for example. Islamic banking is growing with the same level of the economic growth almost, yani. However, what is growing is the different tools, the attractive tools, the innovative tools. So this is how I see it. It has nothing to do with politics, in my view, of course. Regarding fintech, yes, fintech is gaining ground, of course, in Egypt. However, fintech per se, without being Islamic or not, it's undergoing some regulations. So we are still in the beginning. I cannot tell whether it's going to also enhance Islamic fintech or not. But still, the fintech in Egypt is it's not a developed industry. It's still getting in the financial market here, but it's not really developed. I cannot tell whether if we can introduce now, but we cannot do everything at the same time. This is for sure. Yani the government and the regulator cannot get so many financial tools at the same time in the market. And that goes because I see here some questions about actually the awareness, if I put it into a very brief word, the awareness of the public. So we're not talking about corporations, we're not talking about the regulator, we're talking about the clients that, for example, Mohammed Shusha has told us about. And he said that the clients, and this is very good to hear from a practitioner, that the clients are not seeking Sharia-compliant products per se, but they are also seeking good financial tools. Good, like if we compare risk and return in terms of investment, then they provide a good financial tool. So these public or these clients, they need awareness. We cannot give them so many financial tools at once, and they don't understand it. And many of the public, they don't understand fintech. Of course, it's very cryptocurrency and these things. They're not, other than the young generations. For example, at the university, we'll find that students, they would talk to us about it, finance students. They would tell us about it before we actually explain it. Okay, so they are interested and they go to global platforms to try and trade and everything. But this is only the new generation. So this doesn't go for older generations, not our age, for example, or even older, okay? But the government has a role and the corporations has a role in raising awareness. And this is very important before they start bombarding the market with too many financial products. I don't see this as I don't see it as a good idea, even if the market demands that, because this is going to massively increase the risk. And we are at a time that we actually need to be very cautious about taking further risks. So I hope this answers some of the questions.
Thank you, Rania.
Thank you.
Mustafa, what question do you want to answer? Maybe the third one on economic empowerment?
Definitely I can. I have a general response.
Oh,
I think,
so
Dr. Mehmet's questions are all revolving around a certain sphere. For the political initiatives and the regulators and the government actions, we have noticed that the government is very willing to welcome Sharia-compliant funds that are coming from GCC and elsewhere. Because we've seen that many of the funds, sovereign funds, private funds, family offices, they need to ensure that Sharia is there, whatever they are channeling, whether a fixed income through a Sukuk issuance, or if they are going into equity through the stock exchange or even in private markets. So we have seen that the government is aware and appreciates the requirements of those buyers of these products. So we've seen, as Dr. Rania said, the law of the Sukuk has been issued for sovereigns and also another law for corporates. So there is a sovereign Sukuk law and there is a corporate and authorities like the National Traffic Authority and the Ministry of Transportation authorities. All of those authorities can now issue Sukuk to finance the large infrastructure projects that has been happening in the last decade. Also, I can mention that the annual meeting of the Islamic Development Bank has taken place in Egypt. And we've seen more than 1,000 delegates coming to the event, and also our partners in the Islamic banks like Shusha was there. And so we've seen a lot of movement in the Sharia compliance sphere in Egypt, and we've seen the demand. That's for the political environment and for how Egypt is dealing with its partners in the GCC and elsewhere. For the economic empowerment, it's a Sharia compliant product is like any other product, and like Shusha said, it has to bear the economic benefits. People are rational. People will not sacrifice economic benefits for ideological or for a Sharia preference. So a product needs to be well positioned. A product needs to be aware of other products offerings in the market. And as I've seen a question about human capital or the ability of professionals promoting for these products in the market. Yes, it is a big factor. And we've seen initiatives by the Ministry of Finance and the Central Bank arranging workshops, training sessions, certifications for the professionals in the market to become aware of Sharia compliant products and how to market them and promote them and increase the penetration rate, if I can call it that. This is for empowerment of the Sharia compliant market or accommodating for the demand that exists. For the crowdfunding and fintech, I think this is a very young sector, and we've seen a lot of movements by entrepreneurs in the Egyptian market to launch their products. And we've seen large banks with the collaboration of the central bank adopting these products and establishing them as a formal product to access the market. However, we need to be aware that Egypt is over 100 million people, and money laundering and compliance controls are extremely important. Before launching a product, we have to make sure that these unethical and illegal activities not to be used or engaged in while using these platforms or products like crypto or any other electronic platform. So I've seen there is a big conference on compliance took place, and it has been covered in the sessions in Egypt. So we are aware of that, and Egypt as a country and as an economy is aware of that, and it's absorbing Sharia compliant. And I think in the next few years, it will become a representable share of the total financial services sector in Egypt. Thank you.
Thank you, Mustafa. Nurhan, do you want maybe to answer one or more questions? Nurhan?
Yes, Dr. Fatia. Could you please, because I have internet lost, so could you please tell me again the question?
Olivia, can you?
Yeah, well, there were 5 questions. Nurhan, the first one was about the political economy and the situation in the country, and what the role of your opinion about how the political will expressed in the country has been pushing towards it, and also the technocrats and bureaucrats, and especially such as the regulative environment. I think you commented already something about that. Then the second question was about the increasing political and economic engagement with the Gulf countries, and in that sense, the relationship between the industry in Egypt and the Islamic finance industry in the GCC, in Gulf countries. Then he mentioned another question about empowerment and the needs to reach a larger population in Egypt, especially kind of more going back to the basic and the example of the case of the myth Gamer in Egypt. I mean, the idea that maybe it will be interesting to go back to the basics and look for a model of Islamic finance embed in the civil society. And then also he mentioned about the development of the crowdfunding and fintech platforms, if you see any kind of potential on that. Then you don't need to answer everything, but if you want to make a comment and answer some of them.
Okay, so maybe I can discuss more about the political economy here in Egypt, because we know that now we are at the final stage, the government at the final stage to issue a sovereign sukuk. This is also to highlight one of the question of one of the attendees regarding the sukuk is in local currency or in foreign currency or both. I want to highlight that sukuk now is corporate sukuk to finance the private sector only. So it is denominated in local currency only. So it does not allow for foreign investors, for example, to invest. But now the Ministry of Finance is at the final stage to issue sovereign, which is dominated in USD. This is reflect the direction of political basis and economic direction of the government regarding to get new tools to raise funds and raise new foreign investors to invest in infrastructure projects. And then this is a new direction, which is against, ownership, but user-friendly ownership, not asset ownership. So this reflection wasn't before, and this is a new in order to raise new funds and to meet the recent economic challenges, especially after the war and its impact on the Egyptian economy to procure foreign currencies and for sovereign debt. So this is the new direction. It's political and economy both to attract especially the CGCC investors to get investment Sharia-compliant tools in infrastructure project and huge projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Nurhan. And now, Mohammed Shushaf, maybe you can discuss the question, the question about the Egyptian model. Is there an Egyptian model of Islamic finance? If you want.
Egyptian model? What's the meaning of the Egyptian model?
The question was, the question of Mehmet was, is there an Egyptian model, Olivia?
Yeah, but he said, what if any was the peculiar condition of a potential Egyptian model of Islamic finance? What could be its main features, I guess, or what will be the unique aspect of it in the Egyptian industry? But that's a question. If you want to answer the other ones,
yes. If you want to ask another question, you can.
No, I will answer generally this point, but there is no specified Egyptian model. Can I elaborate or illustrate this point? But I can say that the Islamic Finance could accommodate with any project that compliant with Sharia, especially the products with social responsibilities impact, such as in Egypt, Haya Karima projects that promoted a social responsibility impact in the real life. It's this point is related to answering about the political impact or the harmonized political and the economic peoples are seeing in Egypt. So the Islamic finance has an economic impact by contributing in fighting the inflation in Egypt, because the nature of the products like a murabaha is remaining the price as is during the tenor has been dispersed. So this is be a quite price or a quite inflation not be raised than the normal case. So the contribution of Islamic is fighting the inflation in Egypt, given that Murabha provided a fixed profit rate. Despite the lending corridor, it's a benchmark in Egypt. So this is an important thing from my opinion. The Egyptian model is not searching for only a Sharia-compliant products, but only searching for the benefits come from the Sharia-compliant products. This is the ideology that Mustafa say. Otherwise, or on the other hand, the governmental is currently at the final stage of is pushing on the project called the financial inclusion. The financial inclusion here in Egypt, there is two different persons. One of person not to need to contribute with banking or a traditional bank or a commercial bank, because he has a issue with an anti-products. So if we can offer him Sharia compliant products, he will join the board or our banking sector. So it will enhance the impact of the economic related to Egypt generally. This is the overall related the Egyptian model, if I understand this question right.
Thank you, Mohammed. Olivia, I don't know if you can even have time for the third round.
Yeah, the thing that we are a bit short of time. I don't know if maybe we don't want to abuse too much, but we have some questions in the chat. Maybe it would be interesting to give them.
Now let us give the floor to the audience. We have 10 minutes so if you, it's better to write your question on the chat.
Yeah, we had some questions from King Abdulaziz University. Dr. Kalim Alam mentioned a couple of things. Do you prefer me to read them or?
Yeah, if you.
Dr. Kalim Alam mentioned, are the Sukuk, this is related to the discussion before about the Sukuk and the financing of the Sukuks. Are the Sukuk issued in Egypt fully financed locally, or they're international buyers as well? I think it was mentioned that it's locally, but if you can confirm that. And if so, what are the percentage of local participation? And his question says also, what is the level of Islamic financial product awareness among the general public? I think that was also answered before. Then Gonzalo Rodriguez for the universities mentioning is asking, in your expert opinion, what is the general knowledge of the population about Islamic banking and its products? Again, about the awareness of the population. Is there a general lack of knowledge about it, or is the population well aware of the differences with traditional banking? Somebody else, I think it's Dalia El-Mosalami, has another last question who says, do you think there is also a predicament in the knowledge and training of the staff who are supposed to market those Islamic products? Do you think that those involved in the Islamic finance industry have all the tools to be able to distinguish them from conventional products to the public, or there is a need to work on the training of the staff to reach the growth level needed? I think that's it.
So the participant, you can read the questions on the chat. If you want to answer one of two questions, Rania, can you read the questions?
Yeah, so as Olivia said, all the questions actually have been answered. Most of them, they go around the awareness of the public, and we have discussed this already. We need to raise more awareness to the retail clients, more than the corporate clients. And I would say that corporate clients who create the supply later on, so they initially create the demand for raising certain financial tools, and then they are the ones who are also going to be creating the supply of these financial tools. Like if we have players in the market, like for example, Shusha and the participants we have here, they have mentioned that they are either they have participated in creating some of the sukuks, or they are in the process of creating more mortgage Islamic financial tools and insurance tools. So we need those players in the market who are creating the demand, and at the end of the cycle, or in the middle of the cycle, they are creating the supply. The regulator is going to respond, and then we need the retail awareness. This needs to be worked on, actually. I don't see that on the retail level. The public, they have much awareness on the Islamic financial products on so many levels. It's not understood. It needs much awareness. If we come to the question of Dr. Daria Musallami, I would leave this to the practitioners in the panel to answer it more, because they are more aware of the knowledge of the market players. So they can answer this. I would like to know their answers. Fatiha, you are muted.
Thank you, Rania. Dr. Mustafa, if you want to answer the question of the audience, you can read them on the chat. Yeah.
Thank you. So for the first question, I'll leave it also to our colleagues in the Egyptian market. They can answer it better than me. For the next question about awareness, I think I captured it somewhere that once the government has issued the Sukuk laws in collaboration with the central bank, with the Ministry of Finance and other authorities like the Financial Supervisory Authority in Egypt, there was a framework that has been put in place, which included workshops, certifications, and roadshows to make the local players, before the international players, to be aware of the product and the benefits of this product to the economy and to the market in general. And I think the Ministry of Finance have arranged several large-scale events to train its staff and other practitioners in the market on how to issue sukuks, why to issue sukuks, and what is the grand or the sovereign objective of welcoming Sharia-compliant products to the market. So I think that it's happening and it's growing. And I think the funding base and retail deposits, specifically as Dr. Rania have mentioned, has been growing, and it's been directed to Islamic windows and Islamic banks in the local market. So I think, I hope I answered the question of Dr. Daria, and I'll pass it to our other panelists. Thank you.
Thank you, Mustafa. And Nurhan, can you read the questions? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I saw some questions regarding the training for professionals. I'm totally agree that especially for IUFI standards, for example, and what is the difference between the current regulation of the local regulator, especially for FRA and its relation for IUFI standards. So of course, professionals need some trainings related to the Sharia standards, how to be applied in the documentation wise, if the current documentation are fully compliant, or how to, for example, how to tackle if there is some issues, it's not tackled yet. Of course, there is untapped training space that needs to be fulfilled, of course, for professionals. This is from supply side. And from demand side, I'm totally agree with Dr. Rania regarding the retail customers that they need more awareness than corporate, because corporate have some high level of education and have level of awareness regarding the economic impact of the financial tools. But of course, the retail also needs to understand well these products and the difference between these products and the conventional, not from Sharia only, but also from economic wise.
Thank you, Nurhan. And Mohammed, can you answer
in my opinion, regarding the awareness or training the professional, it's already offering, but through the many channels in Egypt, like الجمعية المصرية للتمويل or central bank or which is called EBI. This is the official channels who's offering or whom offering certificates for the professionals and anyone for in Egypt or outside Egypt in Gulf. But the banking sector should make a jointly or kind of engaged into the long-term or medium-term contract or agreement with this channels to create a new generation who has awareness regarding the Sharia-compliant products and the different types and the main points for every products has offering in corporate side or retail side. Concerning the retail side, here in Egypt, unfortunately, the service provider need the easy way to provide their service. The easy way is either a conventional or a traditional way or process, which has been the clients used to use. So any financial institution or non-financial institution company join in Egypt or establish in Egypt in the recent 5 years, they doesn't take in consideration the Islamic corporate tranche, Islamic tranche, and they because they not believer or have a good awareness regarding the Islamic products. So and they didn't know the huge TDs or CDs or liabilities in the banking in Egypt, who's offering the Islamic products on the liability side, not an asset side. This is Nurhan called it the potential in Egypt, and there is a huge liabilities through TDs or CDs or call accounts from the clients has a Sharia compliant products. So the retail side or the companies raising in Egypt or established in Egypt doesn't look to this funds and how to invest or using this potential or potential field in Egypt. The good news, there's a consumer lender provider called Maksab. This is a new company, has a first license in Egypt, offering the Islamic products for the microfinance, not a retailer. This is a good step, but we need more steps to fulfill the gaps between layers or tranches for customers needs Islamic products generally. And I'm reiterating that the benefits from the Islamic products offering in Egypt doesn't have a good awareness from the customer, because a generation has an awareness related to the Islamic products. It's a few people in Islamic in banking sector generally. This is people not have a chance to offering or sell himself enough to the mass population in Egypt. So if he has a chance to offering or sell himself and has a good opportunity to make a products or develop the products or invent a products, meet the customer needs, they will come the most important country in the Gulf offering the Islamic banking, and we will compete the other countries in the Gulf or MENA region generally, because depend on the population in Egypt. Yeah. Thank you. You are mute, Nadia.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. I think we have not enough time to make a third round, but you have answered. I think you have answered the question we prepared. So, if some of you have something to add or want to conclude, I can give you the floor once again. But if you think we can stop now, so I thank you all participants and audience for this very interesting session. Thank you also to Olivia and Norhan for helping in the organization. And you are going to you will be able to see the session on YouTube. So thank you very much, and bye all. Olivia, maybe you want to say something, or Gonzalo?
Thanks to you. We thanks a lot to all the participants. It has been very interesting. We will keep in contact and following up what is the development of the industry in Egypt, which, as we saw, it really has a huge potential, not only because of the financial needs of the country, but also the potential among the demands of the population, especially the young people now in the country. So we'll be looking forward to the sovereign Sukuk that is coming, and see the impact of it in the industry. And thanks a lot for keeping touch. Thanks for everybody.
Thank you very much, Olivia, Fatiha. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And the next session will be on Tunisia. We don't know now, but probably the next one will be on Tunisia. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Fatiha. Thank you, Olivia. Thank you, Nura. Thank you.